What is going on, everybody? This is where Replay Roulette would be, but a ban list finally dropped, and so we are here to talk about it. I am joined by a personal good friend, Kyle Snow. He has topped multiple regionals and a YCS, and so we were going to discuss a bit of the meta implications of what this ban list means for the upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh! Season, I guess is what we're going to call it, because we get 3-4 months before ban lists. Let's go over the list real quick. If you haven't seen the 1,000,000,010 Yu-Gi-Oh! Reaction video. So, Fairy Tale Snow Forbidden. Thank God, right? That card needed to go.
I mean, probably, but I miss it already.
I miss it too, but that card really needed to go. A one that we weren't expecting at all, I think a lot of our Yu-Gi-Oh! Group was kind of caught off guard, is Ronan Toad, and it felt like a premature hit to a deck that didn't need it yet. But Toad is oppressive in a way. So it was an interesting hit. The one I'm personally excited about is Halki Fibrax. I'm so glad this card is gone. There are so many tuners that died for this card's sins. It just needed to go.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that also meant one of the coolest synchro cards to be printed, Chaos Ruler, Papega Ruler, whatever you want to call him. Also,
my boy.
Yeah, he's Rip Dragon.
Look how they massacred my boy. I just want to go seal tidying past and had a hand trap to my hand.
Fair, dude. But I mean, really, the reason this card got hit, tier.
It died for E-Telly.
It died. It actually died for E-Telly. That's something I want to bring up. Is this card actually died for E-Telly sins, unfortunately. And then another hit that we think is insanely strange is Raid Reboot. For some reason, Konami hates fun.
I don't know why we're banning Red Reboot when it's one of the few end cards that actually answer things like Floodgates going to second or D-Barrier, or because sure, a rivalry or something, I can open like a Cosmic Cyclone or whatnot, but what does a D-Barrier do?
Yeah, like D-Barrier for sure. D-Barrier is going to be everywhere. It's going to be a major problem. The interesting thing was there were no semi limits this list. Usually they put cards in the semi limit section to test how they're going to do, and there was no semi limit at all. So we'll go straight into the limits. Those are the unlimited. Those are not the limits, you silly goober. So this is fun. Some of the, I say some, I only mean two. Some of the tuners that died for Hulk Sins are actually coming off the list. And Blackwing Steam the Cloak, it got hit prematurely before Hulk came out, and then Mecha Phantom Beast Olan got hit after Hulk came out. There's just two tuners, along with Jet Synchron, that was on the previous list that got added back. These two kind of just died for the sins of Hulk, but typical Konami, hitting a card around the problem card and not hitting the problem card itself. Strangely enough. So those two cards kind of came back.
I mean, how is why Destrudo got banned in the first place?
That's true. Destrudo
It's
pretty crazy.
Fucking good card.
It's a really good card. Like a really good card. And then
also Steam the Cloak is interesting.
Steam the Cloak because we're getting the new Blackwing support stuff.
That's not why. Did you know that it attributes any monster to revive itself?
Is it for effect, right?
It's
a tribute.
Cost.
It's a tribute. It's cost. Okay. That's...
Yeah, but also, the token it summons is an Aqua monster.
Oh, that's kind of gross.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how that plays into tier.
That's going to be...
I don't remember if it has to leave the field or just go to grave to get the token.
Man, I can't wait for someone to break that. That'll be fun. Tears busted. Oh my goodness. Another card that came off the list that literally has zero impact on anything is Cyberjar. This card has been on the list for 20 years. It's not going to do anything. You're coping if you think it's going to do anything. This card, it's slow in today's metagame. It's so slow.
Are you going to tell me that my prediction princess strategy is not viable?
Yes, actually, yes, I am. A weird one though is Substitute, and I can't wait for the like dueling book warriors to like break that card.
The issue with that card was Ronan Toad though.
Right,
so I
exactly.
don't know.
Ronan Toad is now gone, so I don't know if this card's gonna do literally anything at all. If it's going to be broken, I'm interested to see, but I don't think it will personally.
It's either gonna be an FTK or do nothing, and that's it.
Yeah. A fun one is Spellbook of Judgment.
Do you say fun? I think we may have different definitions of fun.
With Mystic Mine still not on the ban list that you saw there. Yay. Spellbook looking kind of gross.
Runic Spellbook Mystic Mine. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's oh god, please. Why did we not ban Mine? I would love an addendum to the list and be like, yeah, we were wrong. Mystic Mine's actually on there. Just kidding, April Fools. That'd be great. Another interesting hit though is a Pointer of the Red Lotus. This feels like to me that they're really trying to push talents, even though they've sold talents twice already.
Well, no, Konami hates cards that look at your opponent's hand like that. Well, like Dust Shoot is banned.
Right.
And that card is just a slightly worse Dust Shoot, but it still performs the same functionality.
Right. I guess with like talents, it's on your own turn, not your opponent's turn. So that can matter.
And they have to interact with you on your turn.
Yeah, exactly. So I can see how that could be in there, but it's an interesting hit. I'm not mad at it, but it still feels weird. It wasn't that super relevant. Like it was being played in high level, but it wasn't like crazy the card to be worried about. Mystic Mine was that card, so like
I could put a pointer behind a inboard, look at your hand, and say the one card you drew that beats this is gone.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't get it.
I could rip the Dark Ruler. I could rip the whatever. Yeah, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. It's still good though. At 1, even now, it just feels sacky because now there's no red reboot to counter it. So like,
well,
geez.
You but now you also can't trap trick into it, which is like the big thing. Because people were setting 3 trap trick, 2 Sanctum, 2 a pointer, and a scythe, and that was like they're going first stuff.
Yeah, no scythe on the list either. That's kind of gross, which can be talked about here in a minute. And we'll just go to the unlimiteds. This is an interesting unlimit section. So Dynamite Knight, the true Draco fighter, unlimited. This doesn't matter until a couple months from now when we get the new Draco stuff.
Here's the thing. That's Pendulum Draco stuff that we're getting. I don't know if it works with the Pendulum. Yeah. With the masterpiece True Draco stuff.
So I don't know how big of a deal it is. The one that is a big deal in my opinion is Ben 10. I mean, Drytron without Ava isn't insane, but this just makes it more consistent. And now you also open up a door with some of the other stuff that's coming when we have the Ishizu cards, which we'll talk about here shortly. You just get more recursion of fairy monsters and stuff with Ben 10. I don't like it. I think it's a weird.
I think Drytron hasn't really been hit that much. It just has a consistency issue.
It does. It has even since Ava was around.
Yeah. But bringing Ben 10 back to 3, I think, makes people want to play Drytron again.
Yeah. So we have Shooting Razor Dragon, another card that was hit because of Hauki Fibrex.
And Snow. This card is now fine at 3. It's not going to be that crazy. I mean, I'm sure some people will like find decks where it's like super, super good. I know there's like some Speedroid stuff people are talking about where this can like really kind of go off, but it's not going to... Let the Speedroid decks have it.
Let Speedroid be okay with it. I think that's fine. Fusion Destiny back to 3 with no Verte and no Hulk. This is fine.
It's just a buff to Invoked.
Oh, we got 2 buffs to Invoked, baby. Because the next card on the list is Nadir Servant. Back at 3, baby. Ooh, we got Mechable Wind of Luck all day. Let's go.
I mean, yeah, you just play Prosperity in an Invoke and play the DPE engine and hope to draw or Prosperity into Fusion Destiny.
Yeah.
And it also gives the hero players back, a card.
It does, yeah. Considering they just play in a secret rare, a hero lives, this is like giving them another bone, basically, right? It's just giving them a little bit more. Hero players are always going to play it anyway, so it's not a big deal. But Nadir Servant to 3 is fine.
Yeah.
This card, so like Nadir Servant is good. It's a really, really good card. On the surface, when you read it, you're like, oh my god, this is like a +2. It's crazy with everything that it can do. But it was never actually topping anything until you saw some of like the Dogmatica Eldritch stuff. And even now you have Dogmatica Brave Eldritch, which is a really gross deck to play against.
And I mean, they hit it because Invoked and that format was like Tri-Brigade Birds and Sword Soul with Protos and all that.
Yeah. So it's fine back at 3. Now I'm interested, and I don't think it really matters, but we do have like the Bisted stuff along with new Albaz and stuff support. I don't think it mixes in with that at all, but it'd be kind of fun to see somebody break it and do some crazy shit with it. Because that's pretty cool.
Again, I have no clue. I have not read the Bist stuff.
It's crazy. Then we have Trickstar Light Stage to 3. Cool. That's fine. I like to go against Trickstar Burn in a regional and want to shoot myself. That's fine. And then hey, the most overpowered card in the format. You ready for this? Wall of Revealing Light, now unlimited. Oh my goodness, what would we have ever done without that, Konami? Thank you so much. I'm so glad that card is on the list and Mystic Mind is not. So we are going to discuss some stuff about this list. The first thing I do want to talk about though is Hulk. This card was just so much, and the big thing is a lot of us thought that Hulk was going to remain on the list, and E-Tele or Emergency Teleport was going to go to 1 because it made this engine called the Punk engine super good and super consistent. It was an easy. You had like 6 copies basically of a card that can easily make the Chaos Ruler, which they banned, and then you pair that with Tier Element, and it was like kind of crazy. You put like all these nutty mills plus combo plus negation. You got Baron, you got fusions, and it was gross. But we've been dealing with Hulk even before then. Number one that I think of immediately is the Jet Engine stuff. Or the Jet Synchron stuff with like Dragon Link or Synchro Good stuff. That deck was just
Adventure Synchro, Summon Scythe, go win the match,
Yeah. So like the whole deck, the whole like Synchro Toolbox deck to just summon out Dagda with Hulk, set the Scythe, make DPE, pop, and go burr. And it was gross. Oh yeah, and yeah. This card needed to go. But I don't think any of us are mad about this card going.
The only people mad are the ones who haven't sold theirs yet.
Yeah, I had a reprint copy. I didn't care. But the big one that I'm seeing a lot of call out for from the player base, specifically on Twitter, on Reddit, on Facebook and stuff, there's a lot of outcry for this, and you're going to hear a lot of people talking about it, is Mystic Mine. And this is interesting. I can't believe they didn't hit this card. This card was in every single deck in the top plays for the past 4 months. How is this card still legal?
I mean, it's weird because, like, it's not something you have to think about on Master Duel, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't play Master Duel too much.
Which is like the whole point of this channel specifically is we got started on Master Duel, but we also, I played the TCG with you guys, so you guys don't know if you're coming from the Master Duel perspective of this. You don't know this card. This card is oppressive as hell.
I mean, the issue with it is that, like, you would you sided or even main deck a copy or two because of the terraforming in your combo decks as like a going second card. Because if your opponent doesn't have an out to that card in their main deck and you activate the card and it resolves, you win.
Yeah.
The game's over.
Yep.
It does not matter what board your opponent put up. If it resolves and isn't negated and they can't get rid of it, you win.
Especially, I mean, I want to kind of reiterate this, like, especially if your opponent comboed off and deck thinned, and then, you know, you kind of like, say you have imperm in hand, you imperm their one negate that they have, and you activate Mystic Mine, you go cards in deck, and then you just keep drawing back and forth until they either concede or have the out, and that's it. Because this card slows the game down to a crawl.
Because like for the Master players who don't know, the card says that whoever controls the most monsters on the field can attack or activate monster effects.
Right. Which is nuts.
But the person who controls less can still attack and still activate monster effects. And if you both control the same number of monsters during the end phase, it destroys itself. But if I never have a monster on the field and I activate Mystic Mine and you can't out it, you can never play the game. Right. And then you deck out.
Or I do the really fun Sky Striker thing where you have 2 or 3 monsters, I summon a Ray, I go into, what's her name? Hayate, attack you directly for 1500, use my own Sky Striker spells like Afterburner to out my own Hayate, and then sit there. And then just do it again when I get another Ray, or when I recoup the Ray, or when I can have more resources, and I can just slowly just whittle and burn you down. And then when I absolutely have the upper hand where I'm ready to kill you, put area 0 down and go crazy. There's like absolutely decks that can take advantage of it. And one of the decks that we mentioned at the top of this was Runic plus Spellbooks, which is going to be a problem. Some people saying Judgment at 1 is mid, but I think they're failing to account that like Runics are in the meta now, and they're good, and it's gross.
I don't think Spellbook Judgment by itself is that big of a problem.
Right.
In the current format, I think the Runic cards are very good and function around being spell cards that generate advantage just like spellbooks do, and so you just combine the engines, because spellbooks don't use the EMZ and the runics have to go to the EMZ, so like it's easy, it's free, they're very compatible,
so
you know.
Yeah.
And also like spellbooks have never been a attacking deck that just get big bodies. They've always been like the resource generation, out grind, out advantage you deck. So skipping a battle phase or 2 in that deck is not that big of a deal.
Right. Yeah. They're all about resource and advantage more than they are about like big chungus beat over win game.
Yeah. So
another thing was like if you look at Mystic Mine and you pair Floodgates and the loss of Red Reboot, you get a very toxic game state. That a lot of people are not super thrilled about playing because Floodgates were already an issue. Rivalry, Summon Limit, Goes in Match, Tikaboo. There could only be one for those of you who don't know what Tikaboo is. And now without Red Reboot, it makes those gross to play against. But now you also have to, on top of that, of Mystic Mine still being a problem. So your spell and trap disruption has to either go towards the Mystic Mine and whatever is protecting the Mystic Mine, or the Mystic Mine plus 1 Floodgate, and they can set 4 more Floodgates.
I mean, I think a deck that just sits behind a bunch of Floodgates like literally just inherently worse than any other decks. And like having like continuous trap Floodgates like Rivalry and TCG is like with Mystic Mine is not that big of an issue for me, because like you play the same cards to out those cards,
right?
You know, the Cosmics, the Twins, all that. It's my issue with Reboot getting banned is that we don't have a way to answer lingering Floodgates like a D barrier, or if my opponent activates Sanctum to summon a Scythe, like stuff like that. Like I would rather have Reboot in the format and not in the format.
Interesting.
I do agree that Reboot is a 3 or 0 of.
That's a fair perspective, I think. I would agree with that.
Because like you either need to be prepared to play around the Reboot or not have to worry about it. So I think picking to put it at 0 is the choice Konami has made. Just like with Max C, the card should be a 3 or 0, and
right.
they pick 0.
I think an interesting aspect of this, though, and I think Konami's come at from a standpoint of, well, with Reboot at 3 or at 2, trap decks aren't worth playing because they can just get negated. They can just be stopped completely. And I can understand that aspect from Konami's standpoint, but the one trap deck in the meta, Eldritch, Labyrinth, maybe, I guess. Now with Outright Reboot, Labyrinth looking kind of nice. TT, normal trap cards and stuff, Scythe, and that kind of thing is kind of like, oh, this is kind of gross.
Again, I don't think like trap decks banning Red Reboot is like that big of a deal for them, because like they still have to think about Duster and Lightning Storm and
Storm is still in the meta. That's true.
All those cards. Reboot was just good to side in against like the other combo decks and hit the floodgates they were going for, whether it was being set off Griffin or not.
Yeah, a good anti-tech to you getting floodgated out of the game on top of whatever board they set up. That's a good way to think about it as well, actually.
Yeah, that's why I liked still having Reboot in the game. But I mean, I think the core issue comes down to more of a trap cards have to be good in order to be playable.
Yeah.
But being able to play a trap card behind your combo deck makes them better than in just a pure trap deck, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good point. Another card. This leads into the discussion of D barrier. Wasn't touched, wasn't mentioned, and now we have no counter. I mean, I'm wondering if Konami is trying to kind of tighten the grip on the best deck of the format being Tier Element. Now it was kind of a shared light of Tier Element Sprite. With D barrier being so prevalent, along with
Tier was still better.
Yeah, Tier is still better in my opinion, but no D barrier or no hit to D barrier and no Reboot means that they're very susceptible to this now.
I mean,
not that it matters if you win the die roll. You win game 1, you lose game 2, you just go to game 3. You're not getting D barrier. It's weird.
It is, and like, I think cards like D barrier and like Abyss Dweller, because these are the discussions that have been coming up that we should ban Dweller, we should ban D barrier. I don't think those cards need to get banned, personally. I think those are cards that come in and out of formats.
I don't think they need
based
to be banned.
on what's in the meta, and I don't disagree with them existing. I just want there to be counterplay.
That's the point, right? You remove the only counterplay.
I mean, cross out exists, but that sounds like a real neg to cross out the D barrier.
That sounds like a really gross neg. Signing 3 cross out plus 1 D barrier, and I hope that you draw the cross out and not the D barrier just to hit the D barrier. That might give that's.
They might draw the D barrier, maybe.
That's rough, right? That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
What I mean, I didn't Branded when I played Branded, so like it works out. But this kind of brings up another card that we were expecting to see but didn't. It's just ripping apart a lot of rogue decks right now, and even the top tier decks is Super Polymerization. This card's still free.
So surprised that card didn't get hit. Holy crap.
The card says you can't respond.
That card is a problem. Card is a problem.
And like people on Master Duel, you might recognize like this card is used to break boards. This card is also used to extend your own plays. Like you can use Super Poly. Specifically, we'll talk about the best deck of the format Tier Element. You can use Super Poly on your own stuff and dodge imperms and dodge certain card effects that are targeting your cards, and then they trigger because they were to the grave by card effect. So they get to do their thing. You got another monster. You dodge the thing and said your opponent can't respond. But also, it will also board break with a card called Garura, which will replace the cost it takes for Super Poly. which is crazy.
I mean, also just super polying in battle phase to OTK.
Yep, super poly in battle phase, which I've seen you do personally. it's really good. Because yes, what super poly does is, you know, spell speed 4 is what we call it, right? Where your opponent can't do anything, but it takes away the counterplay, like we just said with like Red Reboot and D barrier.
The card,
it takes away the counterplay.
The counterplay to that card is just to not summon monsters that make generic fusion monsters. But if your deck is based around an archetype, usually archetypes share type and attributes, and then that card does not need to exist in the game. I think that card should be banned because there's literally no counterplay to it, unless you're doing crazy combos that set up things to say your opponent can't activate spell cards, which I think that in itself is kind of also an issue. But
so the card really specifically that we're mentioning, if you're from Master Duel and you're kind of curious on what's going on with it, is Garura Wings, the Resonant Life. It takes 2 monsters with the same type and attribute but different names. Tier makes this card in their own plays, which is another crazy thing. It's a level 6, which, have you seen the Beatrice combos? That's hilarious.
I have not. But
it's really funny.
Hot take: I think Beatrice should be banned.
Beatrice should absolutely be banned. Curious as well. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Any card that allows you to send any card that is not part of the archetype, it is just you're a free agent that can send anything. Is a problem.
If Lavolvo Chain is still banned, I don't know why Curious and Beatrice aren't banned.
Oh, say it louder for those in the back. Oh my god. But the crazy part about, even with this, even if you consider how good like Tier Element is with Super Poly and Garura just kind of destroys like rogue decks, because if you have Super Poly plus Garura, you just stop whatever they're doing, because most rogue decks, most kind of those archetypes are usually going to be the same type and attribute, so it just goes, oh, you're in a crucial part of your play, Super Poly, you can't respond, make Garura, and I didn't neg. I broke your board, interrupted you, and when you send my Garura, or when I link off my Garura in the next turn, I will get my card back. And that's ridiculous in my opinion.
It just draws. It just draws a card. Yeah, because it can.
It just draws.
That card is also crazy with Nadir Servant back at 3. Because you can send that, search Ecclesia because it has 1500 attack, and then draw a card off Garua, and then plus off Ecclesia.
Nadir at 3, baby! So you just like, now Nadir is like legitimately like a +2. Because you have Nadir, send Garua, get Ecclesia, alright? So that's a net 0, right? And then Garua draws 1, so that's a plus one. And then you summon Ecclesia, use Ecclesia effect to activate to search another thing, and now you've +2.
Mm-hmm.
You activated Engage.
You did in fact activate Engage. You picked one of the cards you were searching.
Engage is at 1.
Extra card.
Engage is at 1 and Nadir's at 3. This card's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm fine with Nadir Servant being at 3. I'm not okay with Garura. This card is a problem.
That card, I think that card in itself is legitimately fine. I think that card with Super Poly is disgusting, and we need to ban Super Poly because that's why that card is disgusting. I don't think if that card didn't exist, Super Poly would not be as prevalent as it is right now.
That's a fair point. I think Tier could play without it, no problem. I don't think it'd be that big a deal. And like, your opponent doesn't want to necessarily Super Poly your Tier monsters either, because then they just trigger and then you still combo. So like, it's not that good. But the fact that like, I can break your board, it's gross. It's gross. Let's go ahead and pivot onto some meta conversation here. This is gonna be, buckle up, kiddos. This is gonna be a long video. Talk about Ronan Toad being banned, and the reason Ronan Toad was banned was because of the Sprite deck being able to do its interactions with one of its link monsters called Sprite Elf, along with Sprite Gigantic, their Xyz monster that can then do some stuff to summon Totally Awesome, and then you can like frog lock people with what's the frog's name? Dupe Frog?
Dupe, yeah.
So you could dupe block, plus have 2 negates, because you can negate with the Totally Awesome, use Elf effect to summon back the Totally Awesome, and So you have 2 negates, plus they can only attack the Dupe Frog. Some pretty gross interactions there, but people were main decking 3 Dark Ruler Moors at this point. It wasn't that big of a problem.
I think the real power of Ronan came more from, it was a guaranteed level 2 to summon back out of your grave for follow-up. So like even if they broke your board, you just would summon back Ronan and then summon a Jet that you searched for follow-up, and then Jet search starter, and then you get starter, blue search whatever, or make gigantic and just keep going. You know, like I think that was more the thing with Ronan rather than
yeah. That's a good take, because a lot of people were really focusing on Toad. Like
Toad is a very good card, but it takes 2 pretty specific extra monsters. I don't think Toad is an inherently unfair card.
I like Toad personally.
The taking of the card it negates is kind of a bit sus, and I think that makes the card a little pushed, but it's fine. I think I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't also kill Sprite either. Sprite has a couple things that it can pivot to, and it can still summon this card. The fun thing is this didn't hurt at all the way pure Tier Element summons this card, because they just make Bahamut Shark and then just makes Toad, and it's really funny.
But I think again the issue and why they hit Ronan is that of all the cards that Toad facilitates, that card doesn't say once per turn.
Yeah, and we get in the conversation of we're using older cards now to just kind of abuse the non-once per turn clause to just constantly extend.
Like Swap has a once per turn to bounce itself back to hand, and then it's not once per turn to dump, but that is a finite resource, and I don't think Swap itself is that broken. But Ronan is just an infinite amount of free bodies so long as you have frogs to banish.
Yep.
And again, they've banned cards like Level Eater, and they've banned cards like I think that's the only one I can think of. Things that consistently help. Quick Fix is at 1, and
that's true.
Things that consistently come back for a minimal cost, not once per turn, are inherently flawed in current game design, because they're an infinite body. Are more powerful than that they seem.
Right. I mean, if you look at modern Yu-Gi-Oh, one of the Master Duel folks would be familiar with would be Salamangreat Spinny. It has a condition that you have to have another Salamangreat monster. It summons itself, and then if it summons itself from the graveyard, it will get banished if it leaves the field, as long as it's not for an Xyz material, because Xyz material is a whole other mechanic where it's not technically on the field.
It's also once per turn.
And it's also once per turn. Tier Element Rhino Heart is kind of the same way. If it summons back from its effect by discarding another Tier Element monster, it will be banished if it leaves the field, not if it gets shuffled back. That's a goofy thing.
It does if it gets shuffled back. Like if you go to fuse with it and it's on field, but it just gets banished.
Oh right, okay. Oh, some guys at our locals have been doing that wrong. That's really funny.
Interesting. Tell them that they're wrong.
That's fantastic. I usually use the one in my grave, and I use the other one, and I make it. I keep a Rhino Heart on field, and I keep a Shiren, and I make Dweller. And then I use the one that I inevitably freaking dump, and then use that one for Kaleido Heart. That's really funny.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, because the Rhino Heart on field will get banished if you fuse with it. You still fuse. It's just it puts a replacement condition on itself, so it attempts to go to the bottom of the deck, but because of the condition by its effect to summon itself back, it gets banished instead.
We're getting a little off track, but that kind of is what modern Yu-Gi-Oh cards do, where they are recuperating from the graveyard. They will have some condition where they're once per turn, and then or get banished afterwards, depending on what card they are. So that's kind of what's happened. So what we kind of have to talk about, we're going to talk about 2 main decks from here on out now, basically, is where do Sprite and Tier Element kind of fall now? We'll talk about Sprite. I have Sprite Blue up on the screen right now, but I think the 2 big things people are going to be looking at for Sprite are the Tri-Brigade build, because you have Kit and you have Karis as level 2s. And then you also have the Runic build, because the fusion monster is a level 2.
See, I don't think that Tri-Brigade build is very good. I think people are going to either gravitate back towards the Live Twin version or
Live
the
Twin.
Runic
I
version.
forgot about that. Oh, yeah, all the Live Twins are level 2.
Because one Live Twin is full combo.
Yeah, because Kiss a Kill or Leela searches the other one.
Summons the other one from deck, and then those two really make Gigantic Sprite. Gigantic Sprite attaches this whole combo.
That's kind of cracked. What do you think about the Nimble Beaver line as well?
I think Nimble Beaver will see play because it's a replacement for Diva, because there's no reason to play Diva now that Hulk is banned.
Yep.
Because I think that Beaver being able to summon from grave or deck is more important.
Yeah, grave or deck is really good. The graveyard specifically is really nice because then you have recursion if you are later on in the game where you can summon the Beaver from graveyard. But the Live Twin version actually really good, and I kind of spaced that. I kind of forgot these cards were even a thing. So Live Twin really good. I personally like the Tri-Brigade version, but I think it takes more big brain and isn't as consistent as probably versions.
I think there's just too many non-bow conditions between the two decks.
Yeah,
like
using the Tri-Brigade effect, you can only use Tri-Monsters now to do your links.
Or like Bear Rum locks you into Beast Warriors specifically.
Yep.
Or like you can't summon like not Fractal. Yeah, Fractal or like Shurag under Sprite restrictions.
Yeah,
so if you start her on your opponent's turn, like
that's a good point.
It's just I just think there's too many like non-bow conditions for the things that work together.
So you think really the Live Twin version is going to be the one that kind of pops itself out and is the more
it's either
dominating
Live Twin or Runic. I think
Runic's
the
crazy.
Runic cards are very good.
Runic is nuts. Like the spell advantage and then being able to still play your level 2s with Sprite is pretty cracked, to be completely honest with you. And
also because the Runic's fusion monster, at least the main one, is also level 2.
Yeah,
so it makes every single Runic card an extender.
Yep, every single one. And then you're like the field spell Runic stuff and Sprite don't have a field spell, at least at the moment. I don't know if they get one in the future. I know some Sprite cards just got announced for some Sprite stuff, and I thought it was mostly traps. So really, it's like you have this spell card heavy fusion monster generator of a level 2 that's your extender. Then you have all the Sprite level 2 monsters, and then you just kind of go from there. And you have
I think a hand trap Runic build is probably the best way to go with Sprite. Although I think if you're trying to end the game on turn 1, you play the Live Twin version and go for the Scythe Lock.
So like super control Scythe Lock with Live Twin versus overall control and consistency with the Runic build.
Yeah.
But even then, this is still not the best deck of the format. Why? Because these stupid idiots didn't get hit. Why? Why is Nessie still at 3?
Nessie should have probably gone back to 1. Curious should have been banned. They should have, those are 2 hits that probably needed to happen, but they didn't. They didn't ban Super Poly, so the Fusion deck still has access to the best, most generic Fusion spell ever printed.
That's good.
I mean, I don't know what they were thinking.
I don't know. It's crazy to me.
They, plus hitting, again, I personally don't think Ronan should have been hit. I know why it was hit, and I can understand why of all the cards to pick, that was the one to hit, because it just doesn't have that once per turn clause.
Yeah.
But that deck just, I don't know if Sprite has the ability to keep up with tier. And I think
not now.
I don't know if any of the versions can keep up with tier.
Yeah, I don't think, not now it doesn't. With Toad, it could keep up. It wasn't the best deck, but it could stand in the same room. Now,
I mean,
tier feels like the big brother putting a hand on the little brother as they swing their arms. And they're just kind of like,
Again, I think legitimately going into this next format, you're going to have the people playing tier, and then the people playing to beat tier.
Yeah,
And that's it. And that's it. I think that's the format.
we are. I agree with you. I think we're entering a tier 0 format. For sure.
Okay, so tier 0 again. I don't think this is a tier 0 format because I've lived through a couple of those. Tier 0 means it doesn't matter if you're playing to beat this deck or not. I am going to win 85-90% of the time.
Fair. That's fair.
So you have to be playing these cards, or your deck isn't good enough. I think tier is a tier Lament is a tier 0.5 deck, where this is undoubtedly the best deck, but it has some hard counters, and you can deck build and beat it consistently.
Yeah, that's fair. Because we can talk about one of the cards here in a minute about what beats it. So, like, for those of you who don't know, the Danger, specifically 3 Nessie, 2 to 3 Mothman, 1 Jackalope, 1 Tsuchinoko is the Danger package that you put in the side tier element. And Nessie is being an Aqua, and all the tier elements basically use Aqua monsters to do their fusion summoning, like Kalos is 1 tier element plus an Aqua. And because Nessie discards a card for effect, so if you don't know what the Dangers do, if you haven't played them in Master Duel, you reveal, then you basically lay your cards out on the table face down, your opponent chooses one, so typically rolls a die, picks one, it gets discarded to the graveyard for effect, and then the Danger will summon itself and then draw a card. If the Danger was sent, then the Danger gets to do a certain thing. Nessie searches one, Jackalope summons one, Tsuchinoko summons himself, Mothman discards one and draws one, discards one for effect, by the way. So the tier elements all do a fusion summoning when they are sent to the graveyard by a card effect. And so revealing a Nessie, hitting a tier element off the Nessie, summoning the Nessie, drawing a card, then triggering your tier element to summon Kalos with the Nessie, and then you just +2. It's crazy. Actually, I think it's only a +1, technically.
Yeah.
But it's like you're facilitating plays, and then you recycle the Nessie back into the deck where you can get to do it again. But all of that, even all of that doesn't matter when you can summon Curious the Lightsworn Dominion, because this card is dumb, and all of the tier elements are dark. I hate it.
Been inherently broken since it was printed. That card has only ever been used in degenerate combos.
It's true.
I believe it was abused. Yeah, it was abused in the Fireball Danger FTK. Yep. I abused it in Gemini FTK.
There was another FTK that did it. Wasn't there a Gemini FTK that abused this card too, along with Saryuja?
I mean, yeah, there's been like Curious is just inherently abusable, and along with Beatrice to set up a like double super alloy beast Raptimus, and then you make Gigavice with Cannon Soldier, and then you just win because it's an FTK. It's not consistent. It's not good, but the Curious facilitates it. It was used in Thunder combo decks to dump. Again, the first time before it was banned, Fairy Tale Snow to the graveyard. It was used in Grassworn Dinos to dump your Snow to the graveyard or any combo piece that you needed. It was used in...
And what it was being used for now was Snow. Send Snow, mill 3, hit a tier element, fuse, go. There you are.
I mean, that card is just inherently broken, and again,
needed to go.
It being able to access any generic card in your entire deck. It's not restrictive. It doesn't dump a Lightsworn card. It doesn't take Lightsworns.
Yeah.
That card is inherently a problem.
Super generic, fairly easy to summon with the Dangers in the meta because all of the tier elements besides Rhino Heart are darks. So Garua is a dark. Making Garua is easy. One more tier element plus a Danger, and you have made Curious. And it's super simple. You can do it with like 70 to 85% of tier element hands.
I think it's closer to 90.
Is it really that high?
I have literally never not made it in a combo turn 1 unless I either completely bricked or got hand trapped like twice.
It's crazy. Like it needed to be banned, in my opinion, because it was a way of hitting tier element without hitting tier element cards specifically. Along with the Danger cards, you could hit those cards. You could leave Nessie to 1, like it would have been fine. It was a way to hit tier element without hitting tier element. You didn't have to ban any of the tier element cards. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. It still hit the deck, which in my opinion was fine. But now we have to deal with this nonsense and seeing this card every 10 times because this card is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be, it's going to keep getting abused until Konami decides to actually ban it. I got a feeling that next ban list, whenever the fuck that is going to be.
It'll be a pretty big. It'll be a pretty big bomb drop, probably.
I hope that this next list is just an absolute nuke. I don't know if people remember or everyone was around for the was it 2016? I don't know.
Was it Zodiac?
Late
Zodiac ban list?
No, late 2015, early 2016, something like that, where Necros and Shadal and all of that got murdered.
Like Construct and all that got banned.
Like Construct got banned. All the Necros cards got banned. Seer and Graph both went to 1.
Yeah.
They
crazy.
Murdered that format.
And so, Tier Element takes the spot as the number 1 deck with its consistency, Curious being the thing, all the stuff. And the best part is about it, you guys, we're not even at its final form. We're at Frieza being in the 3rd stage, stabbing Krillin in the freaking stomach with our horn, and then going.
I thought that was 2nd stage Frieza.
Oh shit, you're right.
Isn't 3rd stage?
You're right. Yeah. 3rd stage is Big Long Face. Oh, I totally forgot about. I blocked that stage out of my brain.
That stage sucked anyway.
For
it's
a good
fine.
reason, because you see that stage for like 2 seconds, and he finger blasts Piccolo for like a hot second, and then he's like, "I'm just gonna transform anyway," because so that form didn't exist. So sorry, my point actually kind of stands because I would still probably consider we're only 2nd stage Tier Element.
With Snow being banned, but Curious still being around, I think Tier is just gonna develop more, especially with the new cards coming out in Darkwing Blast.
Yeah. Which we haven't really talked about. We haven't looked at yet.
Because they're all really good.
Yeah.
I looked at them. I kind of know what they all do.
The new Fusion Lady, Kit Kalos +1 tier, is a strike for special summons.
It is a warning.
A warning for special summons, not a strike.
It can negate spell cards, I'm pretty sure. It says if a monster's or a card effect that would special summon a monster, right. I believe. It negates like fusion spells and stuff.
We're at stage 2 Frieza. We get stuff in Darkwing Blast with a new boss monster. We're at stage 3 Frieza, and then we get the Ishizu cards, and we're at stage 4 Frieza because Diviner of the Herald plus Arclight is going to be a disgusting thing with the Ishizu cards because
so since we don't have Curious banned with the Ishizu cards, you can go first and set up the Diviner stuff, mill your opponent 15 cards, and Griffin combo into Exchange of the Spirit and FTK them, essentially.
It's crazy. Because, so if you guys, we're a little ways out from the Ishizu cards, but they're all fairy type things, and they're, anime support, but they're really, really good. And so one of the big combos that people are really focusing on at the moment is like, if you have Orange Light in hand plus one of the Ishizus, you can negate something and then mill 5, and if you have Exchange of the Spirit in the grave, you mill 10? Is that what it is?
Okay, no. So so there are 3 Ishizu monsters you play. I think pretty sure it's just 3. It might be 4.
I think it's 3.
But 3. But they mill both players 5 cards if they go to the graveyard. I believe by a card effect, or I don't know if they care. I don't think they care. But it mills both players 5. So you can mill 5, and then they hit themselves, and they keep milling both players, but you also hit your tier limit cards at the same time. So you can essentially set it up to mill enough cards to where you hit all 3, and your opponent has milled 15 cards. Because now both players have 15 cards in their graveyard, Exchange of the Spirit is live, which says both players take their decks and their graveyards and swap them. So your opponent, in their draw phase, after they draw for turn, you get to activate Exchange of the Spirit, and they take their graveyard, and they take their deck, and their deck goes in their graveyard, and their graveyard becomes their deck. It doesn't trigger graveyard effects either, because it's a swapping of places. It's not sending cards to the graveyard. So you tell your opponent, your deck actually has 15 cards in it now, and you have to play without the rest of your deck for this whole game.
Yep.
Also, I went first and I established a board.
Yeah, that's like the real crazy part about it. So like the main one that I have seen is the Agaido, the Ancient Century. So if this card is sent from the hand to the or deck to the graveyard, you can send top 5 cards of each deck to the graveyard. Then, if Exchange of the Spirit is in your graveyard, you can send the top 5 cards of either deck to the graveyard. So you mill 10 if you already have Exchange the Spirit of both decks. Which, if you're playing a mirror match, kind of sucks. But
I didn't even know it worked with Exchange of the Spirit like that.
Yeah,
that's broken.
Century's nuts.
Because like you can, because it says the second effect will let you mill an additional 5 on a deck or both decks.
The Exchange of the Spirit is you can send the top 5 cards of either deck. So one you get to choose.
Okay, I mean that's just broken.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty.
That's
so. Like I said, we're not even to Tyr's final form, and we're already seeing Tyr be the best deck in the format with the way things have panned out, and we still have Ishizu cards, and people are still waiting for them, and then I think we will actually be in a Tier 0 format. But I think there's a little bit of an elephant in the room that the one card that really, really, really takes a gigantic dump on Tier Element, and that's Dimension Shifter. And I think one of the things that Kyle mentioned just a minute ago is if you're not playing Tier, you're playing to beat Tier, and the 2 decks that can play D-Shifter with no problem are Exo Sister and Fluwandereeze. Easily.
I think those 2 are very good anti-meta picks. I think I want to say Flunder's the better pick. I think Exo Sister has a higher power ceiling, but I think in terms of consistency and overall engine, Flunder has the better engine.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I can't remember if we get more Exo Sister cards in the next set or not. But I know, like in the OCG, Exo Sisters was doing fairly well with Tier Element in the meta. But I can't remember, or if they got the support sooner than we did. I can never remember the details because I try to at least pay attention to the decks, but I don't know the specifics. But D-Shifter is going to be crazy. It's going to be a really annoying card for us Tier Element players to deal with. But at the same time, like when Ishizu comes out and you activate D-Shifter and I activate Arclight plus the card that mills, sorry. I get to play the game on your turn, and I negated something. Haha, GG's.
Yeah, no. Like, it's just, it is one of those cards that I think needs to exist, Dimension Shifter.
This card should, and a lot of people wanted this card to get hit. I think you're insane. I don't think this card could get hit while Tier Element is in the meta. There's no way.
I mean, I don't think that card should ever be hit. I think that is a card very few decks can play.
Yep.
But if you are playing it, it's because you benefit from it. And like, it's fine to have niche cards like that exist that are broken. If not, every deck can abuse it.
Bro, bring back Grand Maju OTK, D-Shifter, Dangers, Grand Maju. Just go crack. Just go crazy. And then side into all trap cards if they make you go first. Still play D-Shifter, win the game. Simple as that, man. And the other thing is we're not even going to be able to talk about the fun stuff so in the OCG, a lot of cards got hit enough that in the OCG they still have grass, so grass tier is a big deal, but they still
that's just not going to exist here.
It's not going to exist here. I don't want it. But the thing that does exist in OCG that's not as prevalent here is branded tier. And I'm a huge fan of branded. From Master Duel channel, you guys know this. I love the branded cards. I like the lore. I like all that stuff. It's great. It's modern day Invoked. I love it. It's fantastic. But it keeps getting
the
support.
Branded stuff is just like, it's good, but like here we don't have Max C, so I can play the more powerful versions of the deck, like the danger versions and stuff, because I don't have to worry about getting Max Seed.
Exactly.
Whereas I think in the OCG that the branded version is better because I can activate Branded Fusion, you can Max C me, and I can give you like 1 to 2 cards and end on like Mirror Jade plus a Branded in red.
and then play control deck, and then still do stuff with tier monsters in the next turn because you're not going to kill me through Chimera Mirror Jade. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting if you look at how much Max C is relevant, because people wanted, with Master Duel, to bring this back. With Master Duel being a thing that everyone's playing to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh!, people are like, hey, let's get Max C on there. No. I was for Max C. I'm against Max C. I hate that card.
A card, again, Max C as a card, it should exist at 3 or 0. Because it is a card that warps the format around it, because certain decks just cannot exist if Max C is in your format. Yeah. Certain decks just cannot function with the odds of my opponent. It's just, if your opponent draws Max C 2 out of 3 games in the TCG, you lose because you're playing a deck.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, that's what's like drastically different about the OCG versus TCG. Is TCG is very much more combo heavy. Formats where the OCG is very control heavy formats because of Max C, because of those kind of cards. You don't see the combo decks. Like Dragon Link really never took off that much in the OCG, where Dragon Link was huge here in the TCG, because if you hit Max C and they're playing Dragon Link, they just pass, or you're drawing half your deck and they just lose to Nibiru and some other stuff, because you're going to have Imperm plus Nibiru plus L plus ratio. Like, that's just what's going to happen.
I mean, Sword Soul was not a very good or popular deck in the OCG because of Max C. Because
you draw, like, 4 cards off of 2 activations? Moye? No, it's 5 cards. No, it's 4 cards.
Off of just Moye, you draw 3 cards.
Yeah,
well, 2 cards.
2 cards, because Moye, summon token, summon Chi-Shao.
Make Chi-Shao.
Then Long One activates summon, that's 2 more cards, plus whatever you make there. It's 4 cards off of just the basic board that Sword Soul would set up. It's 4 cards.
Yeah. And that's like not a super oppressive board.
No, but it's really good in the TCG because it's controlled, because they play hand traps behind it. Where in the OCG, it's like, Maxi, now I have 4 more hand traps or 4 more board breakers.
Like, it just, again, decks like, cards like Maxi, and in my opinion, Call by the Grave and Red Reboot, you know, things like that.
That's another card that didn't get banned that should have got banned.
Again, Call by should either be at 3 or at 0. It should probably be at 0, but we could have it at 3. And I wouldn't. I'd be a little upset, but I wouldn't complain.
It'd be good anti-tier tech, but then tier also gets to play it, and D-Shifter no longer is a thing, so that's fun.
Yeah, again, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm interested to see. I know that Kyle and I are going to be attending a regional together in about a week, and then we are also attending a YCS together in Minneapolis in a couple weeks from that. So we're excited, and we'll let you guys know kind of.
It's 2 weeks for the regional, right? It's the 9th. It's the 9th, right? Because this weekend is the 2nd.
It's next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the next weekend.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Monday, so technically, yeah. It's like 13 days.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
In 1, 2, 3.5, almost 4 weeks.
Almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 3-ish weeks. I'm excited for that. That's what I'm mostly testing for, which is why I've been reading all the new tier cards, because I've been playing tier since it came out. Because
me too.
I thought Sprite was going to be better than it was. I just like Fusion.
I like little Fusion. I like the Fusion pretty ladies and the big lady with the sword. What's her? I don't know the new girl's name, but it's Kit Kalis plus her. She's really cool.
Oh, it's Lula Kalos or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I like those cards a lot. I think those cards are really pretty. Their artwork is really gorgeous. And then you have like Rhino Heart, who's just protecting them. It's just fun. I like the lore. Plus, I like fusion monsters, obviously, because of branding and stuff. I love fusion cards. Invoked,
I think
another thing. I like fusion monsters.
Yeah, I played Invoked. I played Shaddolls. I like fusion monsters.
I love Shaddolls so much.
I actually did not like branded. I thought that deck was super boring.
I love it.
I thought that deck was super boring, but that's just me. It's like the one fusion deck I didn't get behind.
All right, guys. This about went an hour long, but it was fun. I really enjoyed the conversation. Kyle, thanks so much, man. Thanks for being a homie. I really appreciate it. I don't actually know if you have Twitter, socials, and stuff, but a person that I will actually shout out is Asian Persuasion. You can go check out His videos, and Kyle has quite a few like deck profiles on Asian Persuasion's videos, where you can see a lot of his stuff. The one that I immediately comes to mind is your top at Tulsa that we all went to with Prank Kids when Prank Kids was full power.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was that, or there was the regional win with Prank Kids like a couple of weeks, like a month later, I think.
Yeah, you had a top. You were like second place, and then you
I got second place,
and then you
at
first
Tulsa,
place,
and then I got first place at Omaha like a month later, and like I don't know. But like, yeah, go check out Johnny's channel. I don't really do any like social stuff. I just play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I talk with my friends, and so any excuse to just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! With friends, I'll take. So
I'll link Asian Persuasion's video. Check him out down below. He's a real good guy to see a lot of deck profiles. He goes to a lot of the big events. We'll probably see some profiles from him from Minneapolis because I think he's going. So.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you sticking along with this Banlist discussion, and I will see you in the next one. Happy dueling, everybody.